Skip the smoking skillet and effortlessly make delicious steak fajitas using an inexpensive cut of beef and the Instant Pot. Hi everyone, Kristen here. As someone who suffers from a chronic disease, I believe homemade is best, but it doesn't need to be complicated. I adore fajitas, but truthfully, I can't stand ordering them out. In fact, I don't even like it when somebody at the table next to me orders fajitas. The smell from the sizzling skillet gets into my hair, into my clothes, on my purse, and it feels like it sticks with me for days. Well, we can skip the smoke and make delicious fajitas at home without the sizzling skillet. Even better, because we're using our Instant Pot, we can use a less expensive cut of meat, which right now, that's a huge bonus, and the results are tender beef, super flavorful peppers and onions, and bottom line, delicious fajitas in no time. So let's get cooking. I'm gonna start this recipe with 1 pound of sirloin steak. You could use flank steak or skirt steak if that's what you have on hand, but sirloin steak is a lot less expensive and works perfectly for this recipe. But we wanna slice our steak here into thin slices, and I find it's easiest if we pop this into the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes. After it's been frozen, we wanna just slice our beef here against the grain, which just means to go against the fibers that you see running in the steak. We wanna cut it into thin pieces. Now that my meat is sliced, I'm going to top it with about 1/2 tablespoon of homemade fajita seasoning. You could certainly use store-bought, but I'll link to my homemade fajita seasoning, which is just made with smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, the regular players that you probably have in your pantry. Toss that meat just to combine, just to get it nice and flavorful. And then we wanna turn our Instant Pot to saute. We're gonna add in about 1/2 tablespoon of oil here, and we're gonna let that heat. Once my oil's heated, I wanna add in my seasoned beef right to my inner pot here. And we wanna be careful not to overlap our meat so that it gets nice and seared and caramelized. So you're probably gonna have to work in about 2 to 3 batches to get the meat seared. Once it's brown, just flip it over. And then once it's brown on both sides, you can remove the meat and place it onto a plate and repeat with the remaining steak that you have here to brown. Now that my meat is seared, I'm gonna hit cancel on my Instant Pot. And you know the drill. Anytime we use our saute function, we must deglaze the pan. That'll prevent a burn notice, and it'll also help to release all those little bits from the bottom of our inner pot and flavor our fajitas. To my inner pot here, I'm adding in just 1/2 cup of low sodium beef broth. If you have an 8-quart Instant Pot, you're gonna wanna add in 3/4 cup of broth. And as you can see, our bottom of our inner pot here is really coated in brown bits. So we really need to scrape all those brown bits. 1/4 Instant Pot and 1.5 cups for an 8-quart. But we don't need to use quite as much because we're going to be adding in some raw peppers here, which will release a lot of their natural juices and cause us to have enough liquid that we can maintain pressure while our fajitas are cooking. That looks good now, so I'm gonna add my meat back to my inner pot here. To our inner pot here, just right on top of the beef, I have 1 large thinly sliced onion. I'm going to add in 1 thinly sliced green bell pepper. You can use any bell pepper colors that you like. I have green today, red, and yellow. I'm just gonna place that right on top of our meat. I'm also going to add in about another 1/2 tablespoon of that fajita seasoning mix, just so that every layer of our fajita mixture is nice and seasoned. And that's it, easy peasy. We're gonna pop our lid on our Instant Pot. Make sure your venting knob is pointed towards sealed, and then to set cooking time, you wanna cook on high pressure for 2 minutes. That's it. The steak will be perfectly tender and the peppers will be softened and the meat will be perfect. Once the cooking time has elapsed, let pressure release on its own for at least 10 minutes. Anytime we're cooking meat, we wanna let our Instant Pot rest after the cooking time has elapsed and not do a quick release of pressure. That way our meat will stay nice and tender. After the 10 minutes, you can open up your Instant Pot. Smells so good, and this smell is not gonna get stuck in my hair or in my clothes. It's perfect and so easy. Now, I'm going to use a slotted spoon here because this did create a lot of liquid when it was pressure cooked. And I'm gonna use that slotted spoon and transfer my mixture to a serving platter here. One final ingredient that is gonna make these fajitas out of this world, lime zest. The zest of the lime is going to add so much brightness and acidity and really wake up your palate when you take a bite of these fajitas. So good. I'm gonna dish out this mixture onto a flour tortilla. You can top it with cheese, sour cream, guacamole, sliced avocado, tomato, whatever you like on your fajitas. I'm gonna go in for a bite. I don't know if you can still hear, there's a little bit of crunch on the peppers, so they're perfectly cooked. The meat is nice and tender, but what really makes these is that lime zest. It just takes this dish and really just makes all the flavors pop. Truly spectacular. You know what else goes really good with these Instant Pot fajitas? Instant Pot Spanish rice, which I'm gonna share with you in my next video. Until then, happy cooking.